It is 0 hour 30, Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert says his country will continue its fight against Hezbollah and will not declare a ceasefire in the coming days. Mr. Olmert spoke in Tel Aviv. He said Israel's offensive against Hezbollah will end when the threat of rockets is removed and when 2 Israeli soldiers are returned. In Syria, President Bashar al-Assad called on his army to be ready to act. Mr. al-Assad also said he will continue to support Lebanon. Earlier, news reports said Israel's Security Cabinet had approved expanding the country's ground offensive against Hezbollah guerrillas in Lebanon. President Bush again has called for a lasting ceasefire in the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. He also said Iran and Syria must stop supporting Hezbollah and other terror groups. Mr. Bush spoke to reporters during a visit to Florida. He said the United States would probably not send troops to a United Nations force in Lebanon. He said it is terrible that 60 Lebanese civilians were killed Sunday by an Israeli air attack. Earlier, American Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice said in Jerusalem that she believes a full ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah can be reached this week. Ms. Rice said she will call for a United Nations resolution on the ceasefire and the establishment of an international force for Lebanon. The United States has welcomed a United Nations Security Council resolution that orders Iran to suspend its nuclear work by the end of August or face possible restrictions. President Bush said the Iranians must know the resolution shows that the world is going to make sure their country does not get a nuclear weapon. The United States ambassador to the UN said Iran's search for nuclear weapons is a threat to international peace and security. John Bolton said that search demands a clear statement from the Security Council through a resolution. Officials in Iraq say at least 22 people have been killed across the country. In one attack, a bomb killed 4 Iraqi soldiers near the northern town of Mosul, and gunmen wearing police clothing kidnapped at least 26 people in a crowded area of Baghdad. Officials say those kidnapped include the head of the Iraqi-American Chamber of Commerce and 11 of his workers. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. The Sri Lankan military says at least 18 soldiers have been killed in a bomb explosion near an army bus in the northeast. At least 1 soldier was injured in the explosion in Trincomalee district. Hours earlier, soldiers tried to stop the rebels from blocking a water passage in the same area. That clash killed at least 7 soldiers and 35 rebels. The leader of the Tamil Tigers political group in Trincomalee declared the end of the 4-year ceasefire with Sri Lanka's government. He blamed army attacks for forcing a return to civil war. Government officials in Colombo say they are still honoring the ceasefire. A bomb explosion in eastern Afghanistan has killed 5 police officers and 3 children. 16 other people were wounded in the attack in the city of Jalalabad. Reports say the target of the bomb was local area governor Gul Agha Shirzai. He was not harmed. Also in Afghanistan, NATO forces have taken control of security operations from United States-led coalition forces in 6 southern provinces. The number of NATO troops in Afghanistan is expected to reach about 18,000 by the middle of August. Indian Foreign Secretary Shyam Saran says peace efforts with Pakistan can progress only if Pakistani officials stop supporting cross-border terrorism. He made the statement at a foreign ministers' meeting of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation in Dhaka, Bangladesh. A Pakistani Foreign Ministry spokeswoman immediately rejected his comment. Tasneem Aslam also rejected his charge that Pakistan threatened the South Asia Free Trade Agreement by failing to reduce taxes for Indian exports to Pakistan. Saran said the question concerns all members of the group and could be resolved when the foreign ministers meet on Tuesday. The United States has praised the Democratic Republic of Congo for its first open elections in more than 40 years. The State Department said Congo solved many problems and dealt with threats to hold a peaceful vote. The European Union also congratulated the country on its largely peaceful elections and large numbers of voters. Earlier, election officials reopened voting places in the city of Mbuji-Mayi, where opposition supporters destroyed several voting places. On Sunday, voters in Congo chose candidates for president and parliament. It was the nation's first many-party election since 1964. Final results from the presidential election are expected on August 31st. Results from the legislative election may be ready sooner. In weather news, cities in the northeastern United States are preparing for the extreme heat that was blamed for killing 130 people last week in the West. The mayor of New York City declared a heat emergency and urged city workers to take action to protect citizens from the heat. The mayor of the northeastern city of Boston did the same. Weather experts say the temperatures Tuesday in New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. will be about 40 degrees Celsius. Cooler weather is not expected on the East Coast until Friday. And now, briefly, here again is the major news of the hour. Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert says his country will continue its fight against Hezbollah. President Bush, again, has called for a lasting ceasefire in the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. And the United States has welcomed the United Nations Security Council resolution, giving Iran a month to stop its nuclear work or face possible restrictions. And that's the news in VOA Special English. From Washington, Jim Tedder reporting.